What were some of the challenges of living in San Francisco for several weeks?
My wife was in and out of the hospital initially, so we didn't spend a lot of time outside of the hospital. So living in the hospital was a different experience. I mean, when my wife was in the hospital, I wouldn't spend all the time in the room with her, but I would get out and visit with doctors, nurses, staff, and just ask questions. Just try to absorb as much as I could to get prepared when we did go and when we did leave the hospital. I would have a little better understanding of what to expect.
The big thing was the traffic. And occasionally we would have to get refills or get a new medicine, so then we'd have to find a Kaiser, and so that was always a little white knuckling for we who are out of town, But again, we got through it, and Bill was always good support, and okay, turn here, turn there. I mean, we did fine, but I think that was the biggest thing, was the traffic. Otherwise, we were really happy.
The challenges of living in San Francisco for 12 weeks were mostly, in hindsight, for everything else, not that big a deal, but certainly to be out of your comfort zone, to not be in your own home, in your own bed, staying in a place where airplanes are constantly flying over your head. I woke up one night and I actually started having some panic attacks during this process, and part of it I really think was from planes would come in so low over where we were staying that I thought they were coming down on us. But just that stress of a lot of noise, a lot of people, traffic, parking in the parking garage. I think the whole transportation aspect of living in San Francisco was probably the biggest deal.
I was homesick. I missed my animals. I missed my ranch. And I think I'm a country girl, so the city was like, whoa, really overwhelming to me. We did get very, very fortunate to stay in Belmont with a lady friend of, actually it was the mother of my best girlfriend. And we stayed there the whole time. So I'm very grateful for her to give us her home. It helped me a lot. It also helped to have her to talk to. She was just very supportive, and that helped a lot.
We actually were very lucky living in San Francisco because we had some friends who had an apartment down at the Embarcadero. So we were actually in an apartment rather than a hotel. So we had a kitchen, we had a bathroom, we had a bedroom. We could go outside and walk in the sunshine in a relatively short period of time. And we had stayed in that place before, so we were familiar with it. So we felt very fortunate, but it was still a one-bedroom apartment for the three of us. And my dad and I were commuting back to Oakland at the time for work. So parking is always a problem in San Francisco. So when one of us would take the car, coming back would be a little bit tricky. We had a grocery store right across the street, so that was really handy. We didn't have to worry about where we were going to get food. But we're not from the city, so we are used to being in the burbs and driving everywhere we go. So it was a little bit of an adjustment to walk more places, and it sort of felt like we were on an extended vacation, but we couldn't have that much fun because we were trying to get my mom better and prepare to go back home and live our life back on the other side of the bridge. So I don't think we had struggles necessarily, but it's just the being in San Francisco part of it. It was relatively easy for us overall.
Initially, the search for a rehabilitation facility close to the hospital was a little bit challenging since we lived more than an hour away from the hospital. But I was able to find a good facility in South San Francisco, very close to the hospital, that provided suites, that provided a hiking or walking path, and provided a nice environment so that hopefully that would assist in her rehabilitation.
challenges for living in San Francisco afterward were that, well, we were here for almost 12 weeks from the starting, the 2.5 weeks he was in the hospital. I expected him to be in the hospital for 2 weeks following surgery, and he was out in 8 days. But total, it was almost 12 weeks. The challenging part hit at 10 weeks. So at first it was kind of exciting to be in San Francisco. There was so much that I wanted to just look at. And by 10 weeks, I was seeing concrete. I was seeing parking issues. And I was really feeling the isolation from being around friends and family that I could just easily see if I was at home. So that was really, that became really, really challenging, that end of it.
Some of the challenges post 6 weeks that we stayed here is we're not from San Francisco, we're from Fresno, so just negotiating the roadway, trying to get to the right place correctly, dealing with traffic was a challenge. The recipients cannot be in the front seat of the car. They're supposed to remain in the back seat, so that was unusual. I felt like that's where the many hats come in, that you're the chauffeur. So, and you have to remember that they should be carrying their pillow with them to protect their sternum against the seatbelt. So lots of challenges. We were unfamiliar with the area, so just trying to find stores to buy things that we needed, such as a scale, just maybe peroxide or cotton swabs. That was challenging, and you're a bit paranoid because you're just out from this huge surgery and you're trying to maintain utmost surveillance and be aware of your surroundings and things that might impact the patient. So it was challenging. Yelp and Google Maps was a great thing.
Living in San Francisco for several weeks is a challenge, but it's doable if you look at it in the perspective of pick the hotel that you're staying at, or if you're staying in a private residence, and pick that community. Make that community your little core center. Then once you find that community, find your grocery store, find your drugstore, and make that your home base. And then you find the easiest way it is for you to get back and forth from your place where you're staying to UCSF. And then it's not so overwhelming. If you look at every aspect of the city, it can be overwhelming. But if you take it where you're at and then take it where you need to be, then as time goes on, you'll venture out a little farther, and then you won't be as intimidated as you are when you first start the whole process.